Was Twitter a state actor, or was it not? Boy, was it ever. And not only with the FBI. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. On Christmas Eve, Matt Taibbi dropped Twitter Files Part 9, which confirmed everything we have long suspected about Twitter. The FBI were not the only agency of the U.S. government from whom Twitter took marching orders for censorship. Here, Taibbi names the other agencies who also gave such orders, and the absolutely lame response of the FBI to the revelations thus far. Before I give you the blow-by-blow and my analysis, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views, link in the description. And be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, especially this t-shirt that I have chosen for today, which reads, "I need new conspiracies, as all the old ones came true." And that's not just me talking. I have that on the highest authority from Elon Musk himself. One more thing. If you like what you're about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, do you see the new icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do, so long as it's legal tender. If you're a regular subscriber and viewer of my channel, then you know that this file is the latest of 9 threads of the Twitter files. Bear them in mind, and also the revelations by The Intercept about big tech companies as state actors. Last but not least, bear in mind the case of Missouri versus Biden. And in case you have forgotten it, I've left a link in the description to the second amended complaint in that case. I've also left links in the description to the thread. Every other tweet of the 58 tweets in the entire thread. And as ever, I am going to quote the text as a unified essay. You will need to follow the links to see certain embedded images, videos, and other links. So, here goes. Thread, the Twitter Files, Twitter and other government agencies. After weeks of Twitter Files reports detailing close coordination between the FBI and Twitter in moderating social media content, the Bureau issued a statement Wednesday, December 21st. It didn't refute the allegations. Instead, it decried conspiracy theorists publishing misinformation, the sole aim of which was to discredit the agency. They must think us unambitious if our sole aim is to discredit the FBI. After all, a whole range of government agencies discredit themselves in the Twitter files. Why stop with one? The files show that the FBI was acting as a doorman to a vast program of social media surveillance and censorship, encompassing agencies across the federal government, from the State Department to the Pentagon to the CIA. The operation is far bigger than the reported 80 members of the Foreign Influence Task Force, or FITF, which also facilitates requests for a wide array of smaller actors, from local cops to media to state governments. Twitter has so much contact with so many agencies that executives lost track. Is today the DOD and tomorrow the FBI? Tomorrow the FBI? Is it a weekly call or the monthly meeting? It was dizzying. A chief end result was that thousands of official reports flowed to Twitter from all over, through the FBI, FITF, and the FBI's San Francisco field office. On June 29, 2020, San Francisco FBI agent Elvis Chan wrote to a pair of Twitter execs asking if he could invite an OGA to an upcoming conference. Now, OGA, or OGA, stands for Other Government Agency, or Agencies, which can be a euphemism for CIA, according to multiple former intelligence officials and contractors. Chuckles 1. they think it's mysterious, but it's just conspicuous. Other government agency, the place where I worked for 27 years, says retired CIA officer Ray McGovern. It was an open secret at Twitter that one of its executives was ex-CIA, which is why Chan referred to that executive's former employer. The first Twitter executive abandoned any pretense to stealth and emailed that the employee used to work for the CIA. So that is Elvis' question. Senior legal executive Stacia Cardiel, whose alertness stood out among Twitter leaders, replied, "I know, and I thought my silence was understood." Cardiel then passes on conference details to recently hired ex-FBI lawyer Jim Baker. "I invited the FBI and the CIA CIA will virtually attend too," Cardiel says to Baker, adding pointedly, "No need for you to attend." The government was in constant contact not just with Twitter, but with virtually every major tech firm. These included Facebook, Microsoft, Verizon, Reddit, even Pinterest, and many others. Industry players also held regular meetings without government. One of the most common forums was a regular meeting of the Multi-Agency Foreign Influence Task Force, or FITF for short, attended by spates of executives, FBI personnel, and nearly always one or two attendees marked OGA. The FITF meeting agendas virtually always included, at or near the beginning, an OGA briefing, usually about foreign matters. Hold that thought. Despite its official result being foreign influence, the remit being foreign influence, the FITF and the San Francisco FBI office became conduits for mountains of domestic moderation requests from state governments, even local police. Many requests arrived by a teleporter, a one-way platform in which many communications were timed to vanish. Especially as the election approached in 2020, the FITF/FBI overwhelmed Twitter with requests, sending lists of hundreds of problem accounts. Email after email came from the San Francisco office heading into the election, often adorned with a Microsoft Excel attachment. There were so many government requests, Twitter employees had to improvise a system for prioritizing and triaging them. Now, stop right there. Already I see you scratching your heads and saying, what? Triage, from the French verb trier, meaning to sort, is a process of sorting requests into the time-honored categories of important, urgent, and can wait. When you go to the emergency room, you have to see the triage nurse first. And evidently, Twitter had to employ emergency room-style triage to deal with the sheer volume of requests for moderation. Now, on with the thread. The FBI was clearly tailoring searches to Twitter's policies. FBI complaints were almost always depicted somewhere as a possible terms of service violation, even in the subject line. Twitter executives noticed the FBI appeared to be assigning personnel to look for Twitter violations. They have some folks in the Baltimore field office and at HQ that are just doing keyword searches for violation. This is probably the 10th request I have dealt with in the last 5 days, remarked Cardiel. Even ex-FBI lawyer Jim Baker agreed. Odd that they are searching for violations of our policies. The New York FBI office even sent requests for the user IDs and handles of a long list of accounts named in a Daily Beast article. Senior executives say they are supportive and completely comfortable doing so. It seemed to strike no one as strange that a foreign influence task force was forwarding thousands of mostly domestic reports, along with the DHS, about the fringiest material. Foreign meddling has been the ostensible justification for expanded moderation since platforms like Twitter were dragged to the hill by the Senate in 2017. Yet, Behind the scenes, Twitter executives struggled against government claims of foreign influence supposedly occurring on their platform and others. The Twitter files show execs under constant pressure to validate theories of foreign influence and unable to find evidence for key assertions. Found no links to Russia, says one analyst, but suggests he could brainstorm to find a stronger connection. Extremely tenuous circumstantial chance of being related, says another. No real matches using the info, says former Trust and Safety Chief Yoel Roth. In another case, noting some links were clearly Russian, but another was a house rental in South Carolina. In another case, Roth concludes a series of Venezuelan pro-Maduro accounts are unrelated to Russia's Internet Research Agency, or IRA, because they're too high volume. The Venezuelans were extremely high volume tweeters, pretty uncharacteristic of a lot of the other IRA activity, Roth says. In a key email, news that the State Department was making a wobbly public assertion of Russian influence led an exec, the same one with the OGA past, to make a damning admission. Quote, due to a lack of technical evidence on our end, I've generally let it be waiting for some evidence. Close quote. Our window on that is closing, given that government partners are becoming more aggressive on attribution. Translation. More aggressive government partners had closed Twitter's window of independence. Let's take a break, because I think you'll need one before you hear the next part. While we wait, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is OurSilverLines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You are not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities this company provides, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit OurSilverLines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. Let's pick up that thread. Other government agencies ended up sharing intelligence through the FBI and FITF, not just with Twitter, but with Yahoo, Twitch, Cloudflare, LinkedIn, even Wikimedia. Now, what's that Cloudflare? Cloudflare is a service that uses the cloud to handle high-volume service requests to web hosts. If they are getting intel from the U.S. intelligence community, then a lot of small websites are going to get dinged. Moving on. Former CIA agent and whistleblower John Kiriakou believes he recognizes the formatting of these reports. Looks right on to me, Kiriakou says, noting that what was cut off above the tear line was the originating CIA office and all the copied offices. Many people wonder if internet platforms receive direction from intelligence agencies about moderation of foreign policy news stories. It appears Twitter did, in some cases by way of the FITF/FBI. These reports are far more factually controversial than domestic counterparts. One intel report lists accounts tied to Ukraine neo-Nazi propaganda. This includes assertions that Joe Biden helped orchestrate a coup in 2014 and put his son on the board of Burisma, the Ukrainian gas company. Another report asserts a list of accounts accusing the Biden administration of corruption in distribution of the jab that shall remain nameless are part of a Russian influence campaign. Often, intelligence came in the form of brief reports followed by long lists of accounts simply deemed to be pro-Maduro, pro-Cuba, pro-Russia, on and on and on. This one batch had over 1,000 accounts marked for digital execution. One report says a site documenting purported rights abuses committed by Ukrainians is directed by Russian agents. Intel about the shady origin of these accounts might be true, but so might at least some of the information in them about neo-Nazis, rights abuses in Donbass, even about our own government. Should we block such material? This is a difficult speech dilemma. Should the government be allowed to try to prevent Americans and others from seeing pro-Maduro or anti-Ukrainian accounts? Often, intel reports are just long lists of newspapers, tweets, or YouTube videos guilty of anti-Ukraine narratives. Sometimes, not always, Twitter and YouTube block the accounts. But now we know for sure what Roth meant by the Bureau and by extension the IC. The line between misinformation and distorting propaganda is thin. Are we comfortable with so many companies receiving so many reports from a more aggressive government? The CIA has yet to comment on the nature of its relationship to tech companies like Twitter. Twitter had no input in anything I did or write. The searches were carried out by third parties, so what I saw could be limited. Watch Barry Weiss, Mike Schellenberger, Lee Fang, and this space for more on issues ranging from the virus that shall remain nameless to Twitter's relationship to Congress and more. End of thread. Reactions to this thread vary from there, you see, all the way to so what, or even Trump did it too. I have a link in the description to an example of that last from a user calling herself Melody. She says that Trump was president in 2020 and appointed FBI Director Wray. All, unfortunately, perfectly correct. But then she says that Trump himself was using the government to ask Twitter to remove posts. Melody, if you can hear me and you have any specific examples of such behavior by the 45th president, I challenge you to leave a comment with a link. I think you're fooling if you want to know the truth. What you're missing, or maybe trying to hide, is that Donald J. Trump would not be the one giving those orders. I want everyone to understand what's going on here. All these agencies, FBI, CIA, DOD, DHS, all the agencies that fall into the category of OGA, were uniformly disloyal to that president. They were and are the deep state, and they wanted a president who was one of them. The Twitter files plainly show us that they went after Trump and got him. Trump is guilty of nothing more serious than a lack of imagination, foresight, and judgment of character. Now, in the There You See category, I have a link in the description to a tweet sharing the image of a document calling on the FBI to prepare for civil disorder, if not outright civil war. Do you remember my saying after that disaster of midterms that the souls of many American citizens must be in a very dark place? Let me tell you something. Absolutely anybody who votes for a Democrat at any level of government either has a soul in a dark place or is exercising very poor judgment as a voter. Now get a load of this thread. 7 tweets in all. I've left links in the description to the 4 of them, 1, 3, 5, 7. One user tees off saying that all this was a good thing and that the government was doing its job. Immediately someone called her out on that, saying this activity is in violation of the First Amendment, a thing with which Justice Clarence Thomas of the U.S. Supreme Court would certainly agree, and even staging a coup d'etat. So someone else jumped in and said the one replying was being melodramatic. Then a 4th user says, quote, If this doesn't bother you, nothing is going to. They are straight up pulling a psyop on us and got exposed. This is a good time to be upset, close quote. So user 3 says, quote, misinformation and disinformation have been key tactics in the attempt to destabilize democracy, close quote. And user 4 says that most of it comes from the U.S. government. And user 3 says, sure, buddy, and embeds an animated image of someone leaning forward and putting his hand over his eyes, like this. At least some people want to know when it started, while at least one other user suggests that this sort of thing has been going on for 20 years. I have links in the description to tweets illustrating both points. Libertarians who have a natural suspicion of all government will always remind you of one thing, which is, if the government can convince you that an external enemy poses a threat, then it can justify a greater threat to your rights than any external enemy would ever pose. And if external enemies do not exist, an ambitious government will invent them. But the enemies of this government are internal. And by that, I do not mean criminals in the classic sense. To paraphrase Thomas Jefferson, the United States government has abdicated government of we the people by declaring us out of their protection and is at war with us. Not open war, but a combination of psychological warfare and lawfare, the weaponization of the law. And too many of our fellow citizens are copacetic with this, because they want the government to steal from us for their benefit. A thief, after all, is an irregular wealth redistribution agent, and one who practices what in the early 60s were called illegal operations, or even a common garden variety murderer is an irregular depopulation agent. Remember that when the Twitter file starts covering the virus and the Pope, that shall each remain nameless. Before I close, I'm also going to leave a link in the description to a tweet by one of my favorite users named ALX. This tweet appears to show Elon Musk giving an interview. Actually, I think it's one of those animated images. Musk, if this truly is he, is saying, quote, to be totally frank, almost every conspiracy theory that people have about Twitter turned out to be true, close quote. Enough said. Link in the description of the article to the Second Amended complaint in Missouri versus Biden, to the main thread, to the tweet saying Trump quoque, to the smaller thread actually debating the propriety of the government censorship program, to the tweet asking when it started, to the tweet saying it's been going on for 20 years, to the tweet seeming to quote Elon Musk saying that almost all the conspiracy theories about Twitter have turned out to be true, to my Declarations of Truth Twitter account, and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to rsilverlines.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and links to my Twitter Files playlist, to my video about Twitter being a state actor, and to another video from another influencer about all those revelations. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.